Please listen carefully.
Hello, universe. Welcome to the Optimist Daily Update. I'm Summers McKay.
And I'm Kristy Jansen, and we are part of the team behind the Optimist Daily, making solutions the news. We bring you reader-funded solutions news every day in order to change the tenor of news media, social media, and the direction of your day to help us all get focused on solutions.
7 days a week, we publish positive news stories written by award-winning journalists and delivered online to your inbox and through our social channels. And also, we are sharing these solutions in a commute-worthy, walk-worthy, home office-worthy, okra cook-worthy podcast. Today is Friday, April 1st, 2022. Oh, Kristy, happy April Fool's Day.
Happy April Fool's Day, Summers. Is it a full day for you?
Well, I'm a little bit of a prankster, and I do like to trick people a bit here and there. But I had this one sort of terrible April Fool's Day fail a couple years ago. Before I was actually pregnant with Brennan, I had posted a picture of me holding like a tiny t-shirt, and I got so many phone calls from friends and family who were so angry that I had told the internet before them that I was expecting. And it just was like, it went so terribly wrong because then when I was like, no, it was an April Fool's Day joke, people were so angry with me. And wow. I found this so as an April Fool's Day fan, I went really big one year and it backfired. So I think today I'm going to just kind of laugh at other people's jokes.
Okay.
Have you ever been massively tricked on April Fool's Day, or just in general? Has anybody ever massively deceived you in a fun way?
You know, I have not been the butt of one of those kinds of jokes, but I have been a participant in pulling a prank on other friends, which have at times been hilarious. For example, there was one woman who was in charge of organizing conferences for a nonprofit that I was involved with. What they did was they had somebody call in pretending to be somebody from the conference venue, telling her that they had found bed bugs. So they were going to not be able to have the conference. And she took it so seriously. And she's this woman who every year has been pranked by her office mates because she's so gullible.
She gets so pranked. She's prankable.
Anyway, and she was freaking out. She called a big staff meeting. She was like, what are we going to do? This is terrible. And then they had to finally tell her, but they had her going for half a day.
Oh, that's harsh.
But a favorite April Fool's joke that I have from 2021 was when Volkswagen changed their name for a day to Volkswagen to highlight the electric vehicle line they were bringing out. Do you remember that?
Volkswagen.
Volkswagen.
Yeah, Volkswagen. I like that. Yeah.
April Fool's Day last year. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens today. Who comes up with some brilliant marketing strategy for tricking us all.
Today on the Optimist Daily, there are no pranks, though. There are only good, inspiring stories about making the world a better place. Right, Kristy? So we're not pulling any pranks at the Optimist Daily. No, we are just telling stories that are doing good. Right?
Even on a day like April Fool's Day, there's a lot of really important stories that we need to highlight, great solutions happening, and humor is a solution, by the way. So I think it's fine to make April Fool's jokes, but perhaps not tasteless ones.
How about I transition from this subject into a light and shining bright one called gardens?
Yes.
This headline reads, "The Climate Victory Garden movement is springing up all over America." Now, during the height of the pandemic, a lot of people did pick up vegetable gardening as a pandemic pastime. Gardening in general had quite the boon. But what started as a casual time and tummy filler has become a mainstay for many Americans. According to Green America, an organization focused on encouraging people to grow their own food to fight climate change, offset rising food costs, and get more people to reap the many benefits of spending time outdoors, there are approximately 15,000 climate victory gardens. Now you ask, what is a climate victory garden? Victory gardens originally were planted in World War I and World War II Millions of families tended backyard gardens, during which their peak supplied Americans with almost 40% of their fresh produce. And knowing that we are in another crisis, one of the best ways to fight climate change is to lower our carbon footprint in whatever way we can. And part of that is reducing our food footprint. Striving to grow our own food the way we have in the past is a great opportunity to do that now.
And it's a great excuse to start your own personal composting program to keep food waste out of the landfills and put it back into your gardens that you're growing.
Exactly. Exactly. Your backyard garden or your community garden. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or your hydroponic garden, which is different, but
don't want to put compost in that.
Yeah. No. For a garden to technically qualify as a climate victory garden, it has to follow regenerative practices like diverse cover cropping and minimum to no-till practices, be pesticide and other harmful chemical free, and help feed the gardener as well as pollinators. If you want to start your own climate victory garden, there are beginner guides that are available from Green America's resources, how to start seedlings, and even more advanced topics for experienced gardeners like soil testing, composting, container gardening, supporting pollinators, and much, much more. Since Green America's campaign to get more people to cultivate climate victory gardens, the numbers have almost doubled, which is amazing, going from 88,670 to 14,632 so far. It's just a very exciting thing. These gardens equate to 4,667 tons of annual carbon drawdown, or offsetting of the emissions of 39 million miles driven. So I love this story. I obviously adore gardening, and I have never been successful in my adult life at growing food in our garden, but we have planted some summer zucchini. We are planting a little area in our yard that will be dedicated toward just our first food-based garden. So we've got some squash in there and some other things that are getting dropped in this weekend.
It's a great project to do with a kid, and they love it. They love it. I don't know if strawberries grow where you are, but strawberries are super fun.
Yeah.
Peas are good, or snap beans, because those are
help you pick them.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
And you can eat them right off the vine. Things that you can eat when you're out there harvesting is so fun.
Exactly.
One thing to be aware of, Summers.
Yes.
Once you have a big garden like that, you're going to have a lot of produce. You got to have to process. And you're going to have squash coming out of your ears later on this summer. So just be prepared for that. I'm warning you, as someone who has been a food gardener in the past, it's kind of overwhelming. It can be.
Well, when I was little, we had a zucchini garden, and growing up, the amount of zucchini that we were required to eat in the summer became a little arduous. And I remember one babysitter didn't realize you had to cook the zucchini. So she made my brother and I eat raw zucchini, and that was rough.
No, not good.
So
you may want to invest in a food dehydrator. That's a really great way of, and you make little chips. Make zucchini chips.
Ooh, salty zucchini chips. Or some squash chips. Interesting. All right. Well, I will keep everybody updated on the garden, on the Climate Victory Garden project that we are launching here in Dripping Springs, Texas this weekend.
I like it. Well, speaking of Dripping Springs and gardening.
Yes.
My headline is about sponge cities, which
are tell me more.
The future of flood resilience. It is a fact that the world's cities and population centers are overwhelmingly located near water, which makes perfect sense because water is essential for living. And throughout history, people have built their settlements where water is accessible and in abundant supply. However, in the recent decades, this vital good that water offers has become more complicated because of climate change connected sea level rise, and also the flooding in river systems, which have become more and more severe. Think about the hurricanes that have hit Houston numerous times in the last decade, which has led to massive flooding, or all of the whole Gulf Coast there, Florida, a lot of places in our country and around the world, which are located near waterways or coasts that are really having to deal with it. And the good news is that many cities are finding the solution isn't getting rid of the water, but rather it's to soak it up. And perversely, increased precipitation and drought actually can go hand in hand. On the other flip side, the same cities can then endure periods of water shortage. And over the last century, we've built cities typically using concrete and flat surfaces and designed the water to flow away from the city. That's the goal has been to keep the water flowing. This is how Houston has been built out. All the wetlands that used to be surrounding it have been paved over for development. And that's one of the problems there. So the good news is that many cities are now finding the solution isn't about getting rid of the water, isn't about sending it into the river systems, isn't about sending it to the ocean, but rather to soak it up and build for that. And that's what we're talking about with sponge cities. This is a new build design idea to create a sponge city, or perhaps a porous city, using blue-green infrastructure, which is infrastructure that acknowledges the way that the natural world works around you and incorporates it into your building. So this is moving away from concrete walls and culverts and these sewage systems, which are all going out, and building instead green roofs, building parks, restoring wetlands, swales, and river systems that are creating like absorbent ponds where you can actually, instead of just getting rid of that water, find places to keep it in the city. And then this keeps you more resilient in times of dryness as well. So it's become a national ambition even of some countries like China, which has experienced increasingly severe floods with loss of human life and property damage. And then on the flip side, in some of the same areas, periods of drought. So there's a couple cities that this article highlights. First of all, Wuhan, China, which we all heard lots about in the last couple of years. But it is not just known for origins of COVID. It's also called the city of 100 lakes. That's sort of what it's known for within China. And it experiences a lot of flooding because it's really close to the Yangtze River. So they've been piloting a sponge city type of approach. In the last few years, they've added lots of vegetation, lots of permeable surfaces for more than 4 miles. They've added 45,000 trees, 125 square miles of shrubbery, 150 square miles of grass, 15 soccer fields, which can become like water absorption, and 7 swimming pools. I'm not sure what the swimming pools do. Like if they actually fill up with rainwater, I don't know. But
well, actually, so swimming pools, they do, right? So when we have high levels of precipitation in our home, we have a swimming pool at our home, we were more likely to use less water, right? Because our pool absorbs it. So we set off the autofill and just let precipitation sort of manage the flow. So it actually is a place to absorb.
It is a storage, right? Mm-hmm. The good thing is also those parks that have been built in Wuhan also sequester 725 tons of carbon dioxide a year. So all that greenery also absorbs carbon, not just water. Other cities that have been spotlighted are Malmö, Sweden, which has been dealing with this since the 1990s. They've been going through efforts to separate stormwater from wastewater to prevent the system from overflowing, the sewer system from overflowing. And in process, they've come up with a whole system of canals, which lead to ponds, which are layered with stones to slow the flow, to cleanse some of that storm runoff, and also create water and oxygen to help plants grow as it passes through those ponds and marshy areas. And then beautiful installation. And then here in the US, Philadelphia is the city that we are highlighting here, the city of brotherly love, which has a campaign called Green City, Clean Waters, which has, their goal is to reduce its 13 billion gallons of runoff water so that to keep them out of the riverways and instead absorb them and clean them within the city, utilizing green architecture, rain gardens, green roofs, and the restoration of local wetlands. So this is, I love the idea of sponge cities, especially in places where there's tremendous amounts of precipitation. We do not have that here in California, but
This reminds me of the interview we did with the folks from Aquapore, which is acknowledging that absorption versus runoff should be the goal. Hey guys, there are a lot of other amazing stories on the Optimist Daily today. We have this experimental superforest shows how to plant trees the right way. New regenerative therapy reverses hearing loss. Here's how to dive into your local food scene. And this gel helps the delicate skin of people with butterfly disease. What else, Kristy?
Also, meet Sesame Street's newest Muppet, a new temperature-controlling material inspired by squid skin. Deep sea snail venom lessens pain, as well as morphine. It's as good as morphine. And speaking of medical things, medical students are now demanding better climate change education, because climate change is not just an environmental problem, it's also a public health problem, and it affects us on a physical level, individually and socially. So super important there on the Optimist Daily. Go read all those stories and more. Thanks everybody for listening to the Optimist Daily Update. We promise to keep sharing positive solution-based stories with ideas on how you can participate in the changing world and ensure it is changed for the good. We promise to cover current events with accuracy, legitimate sources, and offering you the kind of information that we all need to help chart new paths for all of us.
Everybody, it is a new month and we have new goals, so help us kick it off right by becoming an emissary. Support reader-funded independent journalism and listener-funded independent journalism by becoming an emissary for as little as $5 a month on theoptimistdaily.com. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll be back on Monday with more solutions.